A reading from the Gospel of Luke. About 8 days after Peter had acknowledged Jesus as the Christ of God, Jesus took with him Peter and John and James and went up onto the mountain to pray. And while he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly they saw 2 men, Moses and Elijah, talking to him. They appeared in glory and were speaking of his departure, which was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. Now Peter and his companions were weighed down with sleep, but since they had stayed awake, they saw his glory and the 2 men who stood with him. Just as they were leaving him, Peter said to Jesus,
Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah.
Not knowing what he said, while he was saying this, a cloud came and overshadowed them, and they were terrified as they entered the cloud. Then from a cloud came a voice that said,
This is my Son, my chosen. Listen to him.
When the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone, and they kept silent in those days, told no one of any things they had seen. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. Sorry.
In this particular gospel, there is a choice about how to include parts of it in the lectionary. And so this is the first part of the text, and it's the part that's known as the Transfiguration. It's where we see Jesus in communion with the communion of saints. And we see Jesus in communion with God. And in this particular text, Luke identifies Jesus as being divine. And it's kind of this part of the story where Luke draws Jesus fully into the connection with God the Holy. Jesus the mystic is connected with God the Holy. Now the second part of the text, which is optional for the lectionary, sees Jesus the next day come down with the 3 disciples off of the mountain. And they encounter a man whose son is possessed, or at least has maybe epilepsy or something like that. And so the man comes to Jesus and asks Jesus to heal his son, because the man had asked the disciples, and the disciples couldn't do it. And so Jesus dismisses the disciples pretty rudely, and then he heals the man. Now, for us, the question that we have asked ourselves recently is, can we be mystics and still be engaged in this world? And the question we asked a few weeks ago is, okay, this community is really great, we're having a great time, we're really engaged, but what are we going to do? Well, I think there are things that are happening in the world that we need to engage in. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about in the very near future is our engagement in the immigration issue and how we can take an active role in that. I think there's going to be some opportunities for us to engage to provide full inclusion for our gay and lesbian brothers and sisters into the community and how we might interact with that. And I know one of the things that has touched many of your active parts of your souls to engage in the environment and how we might do that. And we have an opportunity as a community to be involved, which is known as Arizona Interfaith Power and Light. It used to be known as Episcopal Power and Light, and then the Episcopalians decided that it was good, so they should give it to everyone else. So now it's Interfaith Power and Light, and so Arizona has a chapter, and the chapter is just getting started. Now what the chapter is looking for is communities that will engage with them in some active ways. Now, this morning, I know none of you read the paper, but I do, I'm an old guy. So, in this morning's paper, our governor stated that Arizona quits the Western Climate Endeavor. cutting greenhouse gases are too expensive. And so the governor says, while we'll show up, we won't participate and we won't be involved. Well, this is just the type of thing that Arizona Interfaith Power and Light wants to engage in. And so, for our community to be a member is basically just for our community to have to say that we're going to be a member. And at dinner, I'm going to explain some of the things that they would like for us to do as a community. But one thing that they would like for us to do is for those that would be willing, would be to give their name and email to Arizona Interfaith Power and Light, which I'm a part. And then when there is a call for action, meaning they would ask you, there's a specific issue like this one, and they would ask you to send an email to the governor or to the representative in your area saying, I heard about this and I am either supportive of this or in our state basically against anything the legislature does. But anyway, sorry. Basically that's what it is. So at our dinner time, I'll be explaining that to you in a little more detail and then passing around that form if anyone would like to fill it out. I think that being a Christian in the world is great, but if you don't put some feet to your faith, I don't think that's really Christianity. I think we can take the mystic Christian and come down off the hill and engage those who need to be healed. And this is an opportunity for us to actually do that.